Oké, we gaan nu beginnen. Konde, Bugingo, and then Armstrong. Welcome to the phone show, the National Phone Show in Amsterdam. I'm very happy to have you around because you are from Rwanda. And can you tell me what's the reason you're here and what you're doing there?
It's a pleasure to be here and talk about more about what I do, where I come from, and my employer. I come from Rwanda, and I'm currently here in the Netherlands to do a bit more assessment and studying, sharing knowledge with our partner bank, Bank. Really sharing knowledge, seeing what we can use at our bank based on the knowledge that we've seen at Rabobank. Rabobank is essentially the same nature as Banque Populaire of Rwanda. Started off as a cooperative, so really I'm here to get more knowledge, more analysis on what they do and how we can apply to Banque Populaire.
How did this all come about, Dan?
Well, based on the experiences we had in the Rabobank with Rabomobile as well as with mobile banking, it was seen as one of the great things to potentially do for our partner bank in Rwanda, to give some knowledge and set up some of the departments to do mobile banking. We had done it in Tanzania and in Zambia before with a couple other partner banks, which are now partner banks with Banque Populaire in Rwanda as well. But it was pretty clearly a success in these areas, wherein, of course, in the Netherlands it's not necessarily a huge success. So we went down there, did some feasibility, did some analysis, talked to all the departments, find out what we could build together, what we could bring in from processes and systems, and then help launch the service.
So this is hardly charity, right?
No, of course not. I mean, it's charity in the sense that it's going to make everybody's lives a lot more interesting, but it also has to be sustainable in the long term. So mobile banking in Rwanda is going to also, in a short amount of time, hopefully, break even and be profitable, and thus funding new development, new channels and things like that. So it's a self-sustaining model for sure, and in the best case, it's a fantastically profitable model as well for the bank.
So where are you now at this very moment?
With mobile banking?
Yeah.
This very moment, Dan is over here because he's basically come down, he's helped us set up, work on the business case, talk with partners and get the whole project going. We are close to starting the testing. We've done the infrastructure part, we've done the technical part, the setup, the recruitment of the right people. We now studied the sensitization from the board level down to the staff level, and then from there those will be our key people to actually promote the product afterwards. Right. So the testing phase should start in about a week if all goes well technically, and after the testing part we then have a soft launch where different people within the organization will be using it for looking through how it works, functionality, how effective it is, and if there are issues, we work on them before we launch. And we hope to launch towards the end of August.
As a consumer in Rwanda, can you give me a picture of the before and after situation, the current situation, and what you're going to offer them?
The before situation is really very disorganized and a bit of a nightmare for very many people, very many of our clients, because you've got long queues, you've got delays in the service level, we've got very poor customer service. It's a common practice all over.
How many branches you have?
180 branches.
Across the country?
Across the country. And we've got staff that really, it's not more like a hindrance to the bank or a cause of the bank, but the service is not up to par.
Have you trained them?
We have trained them, and there's been enormous amount gone into training, but it's a very tricky situation because the country itself was based on the sort of platform where there was a bit of laziness with regards to customer service. It's a very big challenge for the country, but in a way to get away from it, you automate your services. And as I said, the before service is really, the before part is you've got so much going on in terms of customer service going poor and not being done correctly. The after part, the post-launch, will be more like I don't need to go to the bank anymore. All I need is open an account within an automated branch, have a mobile bank or a mobile phone, and register for mobile banking and do all I want with my mobile phone. I can buy electricity, I can buy airtime for my phone, I can transfer money, and I could use my ATM to receive the money, to take out the money that I've transferred. So I could do so much with my mobile phone without leaving my house.
Well, but there's another point as well, which I think is very interesting from a banking perspective. It's more functionality. You can actually finally have this remote control to your bank account. You don't have to wait in queues. You don't have to go to an ATM to make transfers. But hopefully in the long term also, people will be really interested in saving their money, leaving it in the bank and maybe saving it for a rainy day. Because before, if it's a hassle to get the money out, if you have to get it all out before you can pay your bills by queuing at the electricity company or queuing for your television bill, if you know you have control over it, maybe you leave the money in the bank and then just spend a little bit here and there when you need to. The bank is then a safe place for your money and not just a hassle for you to get your money out. That's the long-term goal. Then people can start to save money, can get a savings account, they can maybe have a loan against that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things you can do once you trust the tool of the mobile phone.
Right. To get a loan in Rwanda, is that easy?
It's fairly easy, but not as easy as it could be, but it's all down to different factors, and factors that some of them are beyond our control as a bank. Financial services are regulated by the National Bank, and we have to go by the rules of the bank, of the National Bank, and you have to also profile a customer before you can give them a loan, and predominantly most of the customers, some can afford, some can't afford, and you have to assess to see who can and who can't. And the Credit Reference Bureau, for example, is not fully functional. So the issuing of loans is very, very risky situation because you don't have a base on where to gauge a profile of a customer if you haven't been with them for a while. If they haven't been a customer with you for more than a year, then you have no clue of who they are. You can't just loan.
So how many people have banks who are customers?
We have 2.2 million in the country overall. And 1.5, I could happily say, are all Banque Populaire of Rwanda customers.
Out of a population of?
11 million.
11 million.
Yeah, estimated.
So that's a very small amount.
Very, very small amount. And coming back to the reason why we're talking about this is the mobile phone. Now, the mobile phone is not only going to improve the service, but to become an acquirer of new customers or even getting the unbanked to bank. Because now it's going to be much easier to access your money. It's also going to be an incentive to have your money in the bank account because then you have a remote control to it, but also you have very easy access to it. So you don't need to keep it in your pocket. You need to open an account. Right. That will, of course, increase so many things within the whole economy. It will even ease the ways of giving loans because then you have more liquidity because the multiplier effect works much, much quicker if money is with the banks within the circulation rather than people's pockets. Right.
How technology savvy is the Rwandan population?
I'm happy to say that it's actually growing really fast. It probably will grow faster than any other country in East Africa.
Lots of young people?
Very, very young people from university, even pre-university, really interested in ICT. But one factor that has really led to the growth of techie-savvy people is the government. The president is very, very serious about it. He's been acknowledged by so many organizations about his goal to achieve ICT-wise. So if you go to any of the cities within the country, you will actually find a small center for ICT, free of access by anyone in that city, to use to understand what the internet is about, what computers are about, what they can use the internet and the computer, how they can use it and how it can change their lives, but also to access some of the governmental institutions' services. And most importantly, we have also buses, free buses that go around in the rural areas with connected internet and computers, and people can come in and use them for free to learn about them.
That's
so
interesting.
It's increased.
Last time I checked in Rwanda, internet was very expensive.
Yeah.
But now you're saying that you're offering free services?
Yes, I mean it's not really a free service in terms of the whole population accessing it free. It's more free to the educational part. Mm-hmm. So the buses that come around and the areas which have been set up, the centers are free to the population to learn about the use of the internet and ICT. Mm-hmm. But the actual issuing of internet and connection is done by different companies within it's private, and it's got to be business. It's got to be making a feasible business.
Yeah. Well, but from a mobile perspective, I think it's very interesting, strictly commercially, not from a government perspective. The emergence of a third operator in the Rwandan market, low-cost operator, just like we saw in the Netherlands with 1998, the 3 operators launching, reducing the price greatly, putting more inexpensive phones, has basically brought up a huge amount of segments that could never have mobile phones before, and this has also increased mobile capability, which is also supporting our business case. Yeah. But it's also lowered the price from the other operators, so it's basically made it healthier and more easy to access mobile technology in remote regions. Along with the fiber connectivity and the internet programs of the government, I think it's definitely a showcase for technology.
It's very interesting. Now, you know, we in Europe, we think we know everything already, but our remote control to the cloud is pretty short, actually. And I have the feeling that your remote control is much longer with many more buttons. Right? Could you give me a picture into the future, and let's follow the remote control and look at all the buttons that you have in mind?
The remote control to the cloud for us is endless because we're only launching in the next few weeks, but the product is it's just the beginning of it. The timeline that it will take to reach the final function of it is far away from us. We could use it for so many functions. Let's put it in simple terms. If you could own an account with us, and you could then use your account to transfer money between your accounts, between your friends' accounts, or the people you usually pay. But also, you can buy electricity while you're sitting at home. You could add more airtime to your phone to call. You could pay for your TV. If your TV gets switched off and you've got to pay a subscription, you don't have to go outside. You can do it on your mobile phone. And it becomes endless because some of the phases that we're going to launch in the near future is now you can actually go to a merchant, you could buy your grocery. After buying your grocery, we've already made a deal with the grocery owner that we can give discounts to all the people who use, for example, BPR mobile. They will come in and they will pay you via their mobile on your merchant account, and they'll just walk out without using cash. Right. So it goes further and further every phase.
Now, years ago, decades ago, the JCB Bank in Japan, they basically built up a whole infrastructure where these people, the whole money flow is sort of concentrated around the bank. You take your holidays with JCB, you buy your car and everything. So it's one big circulation of money. Is that the kind of model you have in mind?
Most definitely. It's going to be most definitely. It's
not to the Rabobank too much. Yeah.
I think I've been around too long, but I think you've got to think that you could use a product for so many things. You could use the synergies around the bank and around the product itself to use it for so many things you could do.
Insurance?
Yes, most definitely. Insurance.
Are you going to be able to be an insurer, or you have to do that in partnerships?
In partnership. Yeah. And it's not something that is new to us. We already have insurance companies working with us. All we need to do is to make sure that our product, the mobile bank, has got now a feature that you can pay your insurance premium to the insurance company via your mobile.
Health insurance?
Health insurance, car insurance, travel insurance, you name it. So it will go further. Even taxes. Even paying taxes to the national government.
I'm sure they'll love that.
Yes. So it's so many features that will come on board with time, and you will not have to lift your finger. You will not have to lift your legs off your couch. You just have to lift your finger, and you have a control to everything.
I talked to the Minister of Sports. He wouldn't like that last part.
Yes, you wouldn't. You need the people to be fitter.
Yeah. That's right. But you can also pay your fitness club.
Exactly. Yes. You just have to take it around.
That's right. Much of that you're talking about is financial services, right? But you also refer to the fact that you're basically, because the money flow is going faster, so you create more liquidity. Yeah. That's nice. But what about other services? How can you create work? How can you create jobs?
You know that I think as one multinational, you could do as much as you can, but you reach a point and you can't exceed. So however much we can expand, it won't mean that we employ more. We're actually working out on the fact that it has to be a sort of economies of scale. That's how you work on. So we can't officially say that, because of mobile banking, we're going to employ more. No, actually, because of mobile banking, where you leave more money into you, the savings will be higher, deposits will be higher, we lend more. We lend more to who? To the SMEs, the small companies. These small companies are then going to have the capability of hiring more. And the people they're hiring will also now have the chance to be able to think of other means creatively and be more innovative to do other things. Those things will also lead to more jobs.
Right.
So it becomes a circular sort of loop that will lead to more jobs in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what's interesting as well is the Banque Populaire as well as the Rabobank is a cooperative bank. So in our goals is to make our customers and in general and more Rwandans happier in their lives better. It's not a commercial bank per se, that's what we do on the side or as a hobby if you will, but it's a cooperative bank that has 640,000 shareholders and the Rabobank as well. So for us to be able to use this as a platform to make people's lives easier, to save time, so you don't have to take a half day off of work to transfer money or check your salary, whether it's been paid or not. These things in general, allowing you to leverage your time and also your interaction with the bank. Some of the models that we've been thinking about in the future are also providing that platform to our customers or to our members in the future as well. So for example, if you have a community and you're already doing banking there, you have a lot of customers and the bank is a central point for information, you could also use your mobile platform as a platform for people to do P2P services as well. Or bartering, or if you're available for work or you're transporting something from one location to another, you could maybe help transport things, and you can use a mobile phone as the remote control to that information. Some of the great examples we've seen in India that we're trying to replicate as well are, I am here, I have this ability, I'm traveling to this location, does anybody want my services? To make that mobility tangible for people, to make your availability, your capabilities transparent to other people in your community is something the mobile phone can do. And something you can do, and that's just as interesting as building out insurance or other kinds of verticals. If you become a platform for people to actually do their own business, banking service is one side of it, but the mobile phone is another side as well. And mobile operators might want to do that kind of thing as well. Mm-hmm. But it's certainly part of our charter as a cooperative bank to think along with our small business customers, to think along with our consumer customers and do something that they're asking for as well. Right.
Now, is there something that we don't understand? Is there something we can learn from you guys in Rwanda?
I think there is so much you could learn from us. As much as we do learn from you, there is quite a lot. I think the list is too long. I could be here for...
Give me one example. Something that you say, you guys, you thought you knew it all, but it's not true.
For example, I think the mobile phone was very underestimated. We use it for so many things. When I got here, I thought I would be able to access my emails via my mobile phone anytime, but it was a bit of a trick. And if I'm home, I don't have to go to an internet cafe. I don't need to go to look for connectivity, such where the network is. It's readily available. I'll use it to my phone. I'll check my bank balance. I'll check my emails. I'll do some of my work on my phone. And I'm not really talking about a BlackBerry here. I'm talking about a normal phone and a normal people on the street who can actually now learn more about things to do in life without having to move around and look for the internet. You sit at home and you can learn more ideas on the net. And this is what we were trying to use at home. People are learning about cultivating ideas. They're learning about harvesting ideas. They're learning about fertilizing ideas because we have so many people involved in agriculture. So they get ideas, sharing knowledge on the net via their mobile phone, and
this touches on the field of social media. Is that a word that is? Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, elaborate on your version of.
Yeah, it does, but again, on the social part, on the social media part, mostly the young people. You'll find more interaction from the younger people, pre-university, secondary school, university. But when I talk about ideas, it really just puts everybody together.
That's what I'm trying to refer to. It's not just a chit-chat among young kids.
No.
I'm talking about...
It's not Facebook. It's not just Facebook.
Right.
It's part
but do
of
you
Facebook.
have your own networks, your own community, like your own form of LinkedIn, where people can find each other, share ideas? Is that already happening?
Yeah. There's quite a few communities being created on the net. For example, farmers have a few sections that they've created via one of the umbrellas for the farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture. And a clear example that we had forgotten to probably mention is the government gives subsidies to the farmers, and there's no better way to do it than do it through a bank. And some of them might not have bank accounts, so the easiest way you do it, you could give out, let's say, like vouchers to the farmers, and the farmers can take them to the retailers. Then retailers will receive the farmers' voucher, give them fertilizer they want, and bring it to the bank. But the way they can learn through how this is done could be through, the chat rooms that they've been given and things like that. So
I have another touchy question for you.
Yeah.
Culturally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be that the women in the country would be thrifty and look after the money, whereas the guys used to have a party and have a beer and so on. So the women would be the guardians of the money. Yeah. How is this going to change now that everybody has access to accounts?
I think it's changing with the times. People used to be what they used to do before, because you don't have an influx of new kind of breed of different thinking and different cultures coming in, but also the times change. Nowadays, back home, everybody wants to work because life is not cheap anymore. You couldn't have one side work and the other one not work. The other thing is you now have women spending less time at home because only 2 kids are allowed by the government. The 3rd kid will not get free education. So which means you get 2 kids, and next is you've got to find a job. Go to work, your husband goes to work, you both work to get the family going, because life is not as cheap as it used to be, where then, as you say, the women would look after the money and the men would just have fun. It's no more of that, because life pushes you to do other things.
I can see sadness in your eyes right now.
Oh, yes. It's a touchy moment. It's okay.
Yeah. By the way, where do you live, in Kigali or?
I live in Kigali.
Yeah.
And the main office of Banque Populaire is also in Kigali, but we have, again, branches all over the country, and I travel a lot.
You travel a lot.
Yeah.
And when you travel, what do you see in terms of differences? You see things developing, of course.
I could probably paint the picture much better by saying that I came from a different country, just like the rest of the Rwandans at the moment.
You're from?
I was born in a different country, even though I'm actually a Rwandan. So we returned back home after the liberation, and you can clearly see the difference between where you came from and where you are now. And when we came into the country 15 years ago, it was really, okay, let's say there was too much trouble because there was a lot of ruin from the war and so on, but you can clearly see what's been ruined from how it was in the beginning. So it wasn't any good, any better. Clearly now you can see a big difference. You can see how the infrastructure is changed, the focus on everyone to make sure everything is done correct, people not being lazy anymore. You've got electricity being given out to so many people now. The reach is getting larger. You've got people now sort of setting up their own electricity in their own communities, thermal. You've got methane gas. So many things coming up, and people being given the sort of the leeway, think for yourself, to change your own life. And that's how it's changed. People being more adherence to the law. They adhere to the law. Very, very strict country. Right. I must say the recent survey showed that we are the least corrupt country in East Africa, and will soon be in the top charts of the world.
Right. The Pearl of East Africa.
Yes.
As Singapore on the rise, is that where you plan to be?
I think actually you've got it right, because the model is about Singapore. The actual, the whole system of how Rwanda is being built is like the tigers of East Asia. And some of the people that came in to look at the map, for example, the city maps, the investment arm of the country, investment arm of the country that brings in people, RDB, Rwanda Development Bank, is the same way as Singapore Development Board, sorry. The whole model is built around the same way as the Six Tigers. So it's important for us to get it right. We don't have much access to the sea. We don't have that many minerals. We don't have so many things that we can produce within and export. So we can only leverage whatever we have. In terms, it could be the soft factors, but we'll make sure that we do it right, that those soft factors will turn out to be the bigger factors in changing our lives.
Let's talk about the technology roadmap in Rwanda. I mean, what's up ahead? What do you need? What are you missing right now?
What we're missing, which is also on the rise, is access to equipment, access to infrastructure in terms of computers and so on. It's not easily accessible and it's not cheap. That's one.
Aren't you going to jump that step? in a way?
Jump it in what sense?
In terms of, you know, fixed and mobile systems, and then jumping.
I think at the end of the day, I might contradict myself a little, but it's very key that you have access to these things, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to do your spreadsheet on a computer to work out your business workflow, your business case, and so on, and keep track of what's happening in your business. People are going to have to find ways of making good ideas via definitely a computer. But also the roadmap, I must say, is, as Dan said, the fiber is now being laid in every city and will go to the rural areas as well. So we are now going to be able to know what's happening in this hospital, what's happening in that bank, what's happening here, what's happening in this community, how many taxes are they paying here, what's happening, how can we leverage what we have. So ICT for us is, we're going in the right way, but we're taking it step by step, and there's still hurdles that we have to overcome. And some of the hurdles, of course, it's even though the fiber is being laid, it's not going to be fully used by the population before
there's a problem, of course, with Rwanda. Traditionally, it's got a huge amount of mountains. So
you bet, yeah.
I mean, you can't get around. If you want to be an ICT hub, or you want to be some sort of central location for ICT services, you need to have actually server centers. You need to have other things besides mobile connectivity. Mobile is a liberation for individuals, but mobile broadband data is not ubiquitous because of the mountainous region, and also because of, outside of Kigali and a few other little towns, the population is equilaterally spread across the entire country. It's actually quite well spread. So if you want to concentrate people in connectivity, you're going to be always failing. So mobile is a way to get some sort of limited, maybe narrowband or broadband mobile, but you're not going to be able to run big business. You're not going to be able to really improve industry. Yep. That's why the Rwanda Development Board, as well as the telecom operators, have taken strides to put fiber and lay fiber in different locations. And then I think, from a roadmap perspective, because of the universal access licenses in Rwanda, from those locations, you'll be able to do WiMAX, for example, or other kinds of wireless functionalities that provide that broadband capability at like a hub and spoke kind of distance. Right. But mobile will never really set you free as a developed economy. Mobile will get you over the modem dial-up
in a quick and cheap way.
Yeah, and it'll give you, it'll be the 80-20 model where everybody gets 80% of what they can do in terms of banking or telecommunication services. But once you want to get to the Singapore model, you've got to have some ubiquitous broadband. Yeah. And in a mountainous country, it's never going to happen with...
difficult.
Talking about the models, let's shift from the Singapore model to the India model. And we're talking about outsourcing services. Yeah. Why isn't it that Africa is not up to speed if you compare it to Asia when it comes to working on that outsourced economy?
Let's start with education. I mean, India really focused on education and got it right. And the part of outsourcing starts with education. Education has not been one of the key areas where governments in Africa have really put their resources. You could say the resources that go to defense are more like 3/4. The education is 3/4 of what goes to defense. Right. So really, there's been not enough put in education to get people educated, get the right skills. Then you can look up to the other economies, look up to the other companies outside there. We have the capability here, we have the skills, it's cheap labor, bring it in here and we'll look after it for you.
How is your Texan accent?
My?
Your Texan.
Texan?
Your Bostonian accent, your New York accent.
How is it?
How is it?
You need to practice it if you want to be outsourced.
In India, they learn how to be John from Texas.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know. I mean, it's quite strange that I lived in the UK a bit, and if you call up, one of Barclays call centers, you speak to someone, and they really try and sound like a Yorkshire bull or something, and it doesn't come off, but you can still tell. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing that India has done, and it's done it remarkably well. It's paying off in the economy, but when it comes to Rwanda, there's so many other areas we could go into, and there's so many. For instance, we could say we're trying to be the service side of East Africa, basically the service center, a hub.
Continental, yeah.
Continental will be maybe the next goal. Let's try and fix on, I mean, the goal is East Africa first, and then it could go further. For example, you could say some of the things they're doing. For example, the laying of the fiber is very, very large scale and really, really on a speedy move in the country, so that we could now start offering services to different companies within East Africa to have their headquarters where we are in Rwanda and have access to all sorts of markets much easier. Hotels, we're building one of the best airports in the whole East Africa, road network. All those things are things that we're trying to focus on. I must also say security. I mean, Dan can tell you, he would walk at 2 a.m. in Kigali without any problems at all. He probably feels safer there than he feels here in Amsterdam. So it's one of the things that we're trying to create. We're trying to work around and leverage the things that we have and make them really, really better than other areas, and get people come there for such things and operate outside, but still come and stay with us.
What's the unemployment rate right now in Rwanda?
Based on the statistics, there's not even statistics, to be honest, that can actually gauge it right now. But
if you look around,
if I estimate, it could probably be, you could say it's almost 67, 70%. Yeah, it's quite a high number.
Now, 5 years down the road, what's going to happen with that?
I think actually 5 years down the road, you probably find it's around half or even less than half left unemployed, because there's so many things going on now. You know, construction is going up in so many areas. Now we get, even though we outsource the building of roads and so on, you still get the expatriates, very few of them, and the rest is really the mass being employed. And there's quite a lot that has to be done into the country.
Where's the money coming from?
The money comes from our taxes, the few that we can pay taxes. Also comes from donors, of course, the Dutch company, the UK company, and other companies, other countries that are very helpful. We also, of course, from even borrowing, but most importantly is we live within our means. We don't actually live outside our means. So whatever we do is really, the taxes that are collected are effectively used and can really create some sense of involvement with the population. They feel that whatever tax I'm paying, I can actually see the use of it. And whatever we're borrowing, I can actually see the use of it. So the money is not easily accessible, but is working.
60% of the government is female, looking after the money. I'm teasing you.
Yeah.
Don't get into that.
Which is not a bad idea. We've changed that scope now.
Yeah.
Women are able to do anything. You know that we have the highest number of women in the parliament. In the government. So it clearly gives you an idea. And if you look at what they've done so far, it's remarkable. Yeah. So yeah, they can't do everything.
Back to your business, your company.
Yes.
Right? You have 1.5 million customers.
Yeah, customers.
You have 11 million people living in Rwanda.
Yes.
Now, tell me, what's your ambition level?
I'll probably give it to you in scales. So scale 1 will be in 2 years. We hope that we are at least 3 million. Yeah, and that's conservative.
How are you going to get
to 3 million?
Yeah.
That's double the size we have now. And the double the size that we have now currently with the issues that we had in the past, it's a good job. 1.5, when you're not fully connected, is a good job. Now, tell me when 180 branches are all connected, it will mean that now, first of all, let me break it into simple terms. We got connected about 8 months ago, and we've already put on almost 120,000 clients. So
how many milliseconds does it take to get one client and to set them up?
Because milliseconds?
I'm trying to say that's really quick, you know.
I mean, it's really quick.
It must be a real process.
It is, because so many institutions are centrally located. So to pay, for example, taxes and so on, or to pay salaries into the rural areas was really a challenge when we were not connected. But when we get connected, then the actual recipients of the salaries are now feeling like, oh no, I don't need to go to the central to get my money, I'll just open up an account.
Right.
Well, but you can also look at it from the consumer perspective as well. Once we launch things like mobile banking, what we've seen in Tanzania, for example, is that once we had the launch of mobile banking, we were getting about 1,500 new customers per week, just organically, just based on a few advertisements and the fact that it was there. People said, hey, I'd like to come to the bank because they offer this mobile functionality. So yeah, the automation to be able to handle it without your machines exploding is key.
Yeah.
But the mobile banking tool, so you can actually reach people that we've never been able to reach. We have 180 branches, that's cool. But what about the people that are further from the branches that really don't see that as a handy way to go?
Right.
If you can actually just put the bank in their pockets.
That means that to become a customer, I do not have to go to a branch anymore. I can just use my phone, find you on the phone, and then apply.
That will be something that we will assess if it's possible in the future. But the current moment, because as I told you, we don't have a CRB, we don't have a central, like a CRM, where you can actually gauge which customer it is and their ID. We have a national ID, but it's not centrally connected to all the banks to cross-check. So that's something that we can assess in the future. But for now, you have to actually turn up to the bank, open up your account, but you don't need to turn up again.
Right.
You can then use your mobile on top of that. So in addition, I have to say, adding on to Dan, what Dan has said, the mobile bank will be an acquirer, an acquisition tool for us, a major acquisition tool for us. But also, now that we're rolling out ATMs and giving people cards, that's also a really important acquisition tool for us, because people will be able to access their money anywhere, anytime. You use your mobile phone for doing whatever you want. You get your money through the ATM wherever you are. So
also for cash depositing, is that still a relevant thing? Or
cash depositing in most cases will still be at the branch.
Yeah.
But of course, with modernization and more support from Rabobank, then we will have even cash depositing ATMs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the interesting thing we see in other countries, after you deploy a mobile banking product, for example, in Zambia, we've launched a mobile banking product where you just sign up on the street with an agent. So wearing a bank t-shirt, you sign up, you show your ID, they take your picture if you don't have a photo that you can give, so you basically send that with an MMS phone directly to the central database. Within 5 minutes, you walk away with an ATM card and a mobile banking account. And also there's money on your account a little bit, so you can start doing it. 5 minutes. That's the maximum it takes to sign up a customer, and you can just do it with the guy with a BPR mobile hat on. And somebody that shows you how it works directly also. That's a really successful model. So we take the bank out to the people in the future.
So many ideas that we have in the pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's finish the story. 1.5 million now.
3 million in 2 years at
2
least.
years, yeah.
And then in 5 years at least, we intend to have about 7. Yeah.
You're laughing.
I think it's fantastic. No,
I'm very optimistic.
I'm also an optimistic guy as well, but I would love to see 7 million customers. That means what? 60% of the Rwanda population has a bank account with BPR.
With BPR.
That's genius.
Because you think about it now, we have 80% of the banked people.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, competition is going to go higher. But again, the influx of other nationals and so on will come into the country. So people who actually live in the country will not only be 11 million in 5 years, it will be more than that. Yeah. And I do believe that the scales that I'm using is we are not only introducing automation of services, improving the service, but also we're working on other areas to improve the bank, to make the halls much easier to access, to make it more friendly inside and friendly to be used. And also, of course, you reach out to many more people. The borders are now open 24 hours. Right. So there's so much you can consider. And if we don't reach that goal, then I'll come back here and tell you that there was a problem somewhere.
It's date stamped right now. And this is one of the things that we do, crunch time. Crunch time is not a format.
Indeed.
That we do. But 7 million, that means that at least half of those will not be active, but you at least have them as a client for the future, right?
Half is a bit too high.
Yeah?
Yeah, half is a bit too high. If you have half of that not active, then you're not, the business model is not working. The business would be hurting so much.
What about special programs for young people?
Yes, we already have. We already have a few things that we already currently offering, not only for young people but also young innovators, not just in young people or students and so on, but even young innovators within rural areas. So we have even programs that we do with the government. The government agrees with us to hold a fund that will then help the poor people in terms of giving them subsidized things like a cow. They could give you a cow through our bank, and then you then graze, and if you get 2 cows or 3 cows, you give 1 to your neighbor. So, and we keep track with such programs. We give advice to these programs, and it's not just the young people, but the whole.
This is very much Africa style. I like that a lot. Now, of course, Rabobank has an agricultural background. Is there anything you're really envious of that Rabobank has been doing in Holland, in Europe, that you really want to have as well?
Coming from a finance background, of course, we could do so much agriculture-wise, we could do so much food-wise and so on, we could get everywhere, but at certain point, all these people are now going to be super rich farmers at some point, and they will deposit a lot of money with the bank, and the bank has to use it for something much bigger. So in that sense, you then diversify. You go into investment banking, you go into forex trading, you go into the wholesale trading, and so on. So that is one thing that you look at Rabobank. It's got Rabo International, Rabo Development, Rabo Nederland.
When are you going to be ready for that?
Oof, I couldn't put a time on it. It's quite a bit far away from us, but with services coming in, many more companies coming in, us becoming a service hub, then I could see it maybe in 10, 15 years.
I think diversification is a double-edged sword to a certain extent. I mean, the Rabobank and in the credit crisis in general has also had to limit its diversification capabilities because it's just not the core business. We're a food and agri bank, that's our core business. Mobile, consumer, microfinance, SMEs, things like that are near the fire, if you will. So I think that the opportunity for Banque Populaire is to look at the parent, if you will, Rabobank, and what it's designed and done in its life and where it's actually had successes in diversification and not. So within the African community, Forex and trade services banking, these other kinds of things, as long as it sort of leverages what are the core assets of the GDP of Rwanda, is going to be a fantastic way to diversify. Rabobank, with its 43 countries as well, has diversified in all sorts of other ways that is not necessarily manageable in a way. I think it's all good business and there's good people running it, but it's not necessarily a normalized story. Coming 100 years later, Banque Populaire might have a capability to be able to pick the right battles and diversify in a very smart way. And I think it'd make it much more profitable probably in the longer term than Rabobank.
Dan, is there anything you've seen happening in Rwanda that you are envious of that's not happening here in Holland or in Europe?
I hope he has more.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to a certain extent, and I'm not just speaking about the capability for the mobile phone to mean something substantial to Rwandans, because that's clearly an impressive thing to see. Nobody wants to use a mobile phone for something they can use internet banking for in Europe. That's clear. But what I am envious of is the side effect that is driven into the hearts of Rwandans. The side effect is I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to listen to what this is about. I'm willing to maybe take a chance and try something new. And maybe if it's complicated, in the Netherlands, if it's complicated, you put it to the side, you never start it up again. You start to not believe it. But in Rwanda, you start to see the value, you talk to your friends and your neighbors, and you say, I'm willing to take a chance to try it out. So for us as service providers, we've been able to be at least forgiven for making some mistakes, correct those mistakes, and say, okay, is this what you were looking for? How you were going to do it? We did a customer survey when we went into Banque Populaire and said, hey, is this interesting to customers? Do they want to see it? Are they willing to pay for it? Are they interested in putting more money in the bank or keeping it in the bank? So we really actually went out to 7 branches, talked to hundreds of people, and they were very interested in being asked about what would be an interesting product for them. So that is an opportunity that we don't really necessarily have anymore in Western Europe, because not only do we realize that we know everything about technology as consumers, but also the banks and the mobile operators believe that they know better than what we want. So they designed it in a certain way. There's no interaction. And in Rwanda, on the ground, in the bank branch, when you're talking to people, physical people, still about what you're doing in your life and how you're managing your finances, you can learn what is important to people, and not just by what's interesting on Facebook, but by actually talking to somebody. And we don't do that enough in the Netherlands, I think. Yeah. The trick to doing a new service, and that's in Rwanda and in the Netherlands, is believing or imagining you can do it. It's not about seeing a poster and thinking it's sexy. Once I can start to say, wow, actually, I think I could do that as well, then I'm going to use it, whether I'm Dutch or I'm Rwandan. And they're taking that approach directly, and I think it's going to be very successful.
I've lived in Kenya for 3 years, and I thought Kenyans were nice. Then I came to Rwanda, and I thought Rwandans were nicer. You're nice. Are you?
Thank you.
as a people, right? Are you also ambitious? Are you tenacious? Do you really want to achieve something? Where's that coming from?
I think you visited Rwanda 2 years ago, you said?
Yeah, actually last year and then the year before. Yeah.
Okay. I think clearly, as you say, people are nice and so on, and people have seen. They've been given the chance the opportunity to know where they're going. They know where they've come from, but they know where they have to get to. And we have a vision of 2020. If you look at the vision of 2020, some of the pictures that we have in different cities, you'd be like, whew, I think that's a bit too far. It's probably too ambitious. But again, unless you have a dream and you're ambitious, then you'll never reach where you want to go. So people in Rwanda are very ambitious. They're very ambitious because they've been given the chance to voice their opinions, the chance to know that if somebody does something wrong, then they have to pay for it. They have to abide by the law. So they know that at least every effort that is going into the government, every effort that they put in is going to get a result at the end of the day. And we started seeing the results. So it's given people more motivation to be very ambitious, knowing that, yeah, it is achievable. We said that we would achieve this last year, and it's here. We got it. So it's created a huge impetus for ambitiousness. Yeah.
2 more questions.
Yeah.
If you would have an opportunity to do partnerships with any kind of company worldwide to sort of enhance what you're doing now and what you're going to do, what would be on your list, top on your list?
Any company?
Yeah.
And to work with Banque Populaire or to work with
could be
Rwanda?
It could be, of course, it has to work in Rwanda, so it could be services or sports or entertainment or whatever kind of...
I think I could easily start with home. I think I have to appreciate that I'm in Holland. I'll start with Philips, and then I'll go to Nike, maybe. I think it's 2 things that are relating to us. One is Philips could do so much in terms of we could do maybe chips, we could arrange things, we could assemble things there. We could also assemble the things that we're going to sell to our people much cheaper. And also the cheaper things that are sold to those people are going to be used effectively in terms of ICT. So it goes in relation to what we're doing with ambitiousness. But the other part is also we have a young population, so you would rather associate them with something that is hip, like Nike. You bring in Nike and it works with young people, gives people access to sports facilities at cheaper rates and much more easier because it's not as spread as it is here. Give them free things to use for their sports. The young people that we have would be motivated to do, not only will they keep fit to be able to do the things they can do daily and achieve more, but also others could branch off into different areas, like sports. I mean, you could see so many countries in Africa that benefit from professional players. Yeah. So those two companies, I'll probably say would fit right.
Dan, you as an outsider looking in, do you have a suggestion? What could work?
Besides the Rabobank?
That's already a done deal.
No, I think that the trick is going to be combinations. What we have in the Netherlands is this concept of formula management, not just a product or a channel or a service or something, but what is a formula? What can I put together from technology and what kind of social media, entertainment, what can I put together to make a formula for students or a formula for university people, formula for starting companies? These other kinds of things are mature ways of thinking about how you could talk to a user group. So I think combinations of things, you mentioned Philips, you mentioned Nike, I think combinations of these things where you say, hey, we have a technology dream which has an intellectual or academic requirement, so we have an educational program, and we have a way to talk to people.
Make it fun.
That combination, I think, is interesting, and anything that has a little bit of relevance to the Rwandan people, and there's a lot of exposure to media in Rwanda right now, so I think there's a lot of opportunities for that kind of thing.
Right.
I look at Big Brother Africa as a fantastic example of where you can combine some models together and they combine it with advertising and really make it interesting for the watchers of that show. I do think that it's interesting to stop this NGO thinking about East Africa.
For sure.
East Africa is going to at some point be one entity, and that's going to be soon. And that entity is going to be a very powerful entity. It's going to have a lot of population. It's going to have the best parts of all the special things about these countries. The Kenyan aggressiveness, the Rwandan ambitiousness and development success, the Tanzanian comfort with and ability to get along with their neighbors. All this is going to be together into one area. So I think that the companies I'd like to see support and collaborate with Rwandan government and businesses would consider them a business partner and not a NGO program, because that doesn't help anybody in the long term. I mean, it has special needs. There's lack of electricity, there's lack of other things in different areas, but we see Banque Populaire as a partner bank and not a developing country bank. And that is the key to the success of our collaboration, I think.
Final question. I'm giving you 15 engineers. 5 from Nokia, 5 from Apple, and 5 from RIM, BlackBerry. And I'm offering you to have these guys sitting together to create the ultimate smartphone for Rwanda. How is this going to look like?
Right, I think it would have, first of all, it would be funky because of Apple. It would be durable because of Nokia. And it would definitely be, it would accommodate more because of RIM. You would be able to use it for internet, for your Outlook, email work from work. You would be able to, do some of the work you could do. You could use spreadsheets and so on your phone.
That's not Africa. I want something specific.
Okay, let's take then examples. Okay, we've gone into the funky side and so on, and now people like it. It's fun then. Okay, let's say some of the things they might be able to do. They could use the same phone to. For example, we've talked about transferring money and so on, but they could do more now. Not only transferring money, but they can learn how to use their money much better on the phone via so many media, as we spoke. You could.
So it does have a live chat facility?
Yeah, of course, of course.
You can hear voices, you can talk.
You can talk, you can see voice, you can see faces. So there's so much you could do, but you could also use it, for example, let's put it in a much simpler way. They could use it as a conference call, but a conference call that is taking a picture of a certain farm, showing other farmers around the country on how this farm has achieved such and such and such. Live chat, giving ideas, but also looking at what exactly is happening without having to travel to that area. So there's so much we could do.
Right.
And don't forget that they could be able to transfer money in between while they're doing that.
Dan, on a final note, what would you add to this super smartphone?
Well, I think that is the whole idea. Rwandans need 10 people to tell them how it works before they believe it. If I could show a Rwandan an example of a farm that was working in certain areas, or an example of tobacco or whatever kind of cooperative that the bank has helped, I mean, I think this is a service we'd love to be able to propose. Hey, everybody tune into this show. It's maybe underwritten by Banque Populaire, but it's actually just a show about how you can manage your finances in your farm, or how you can manage your farm a little bit smarter, and how success in breeding has worked in this area. If a phone can enable that kind of functionality, so that knowledge could be transferred directly to everybody who could use it, I think it'd be fantastic. That would go a long way in showing you how it works, instead of just reading about it or whatever. I want to see it. I want to understand it. That works in Rwanda. It's not necessarily something that's in other countries. And the phone could do it. It's got to be a funkier smartphone, that's for sure. It can't be a
because it goes hand in hand with the population. Right. We've got the older people, the middle-aged people who are now the key people driving the population, and then we've got the young people coming up. So both, the whole three sector has to have one phone that is, goes hand in hand with them.
I'll be back in Rwanda when Kigali has been turned into Funky Town.
It is already.
It's already Funky Town. And then I'll love to see the progress.
Yeah, you're welcome. And first stop should be at Banque Populaire. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Cheers.
Sorry, eventjes yeah? Okay, we need this, to do the editing well, we need you to do this nodding and so on.
All right.
It's 1 minute of nodding and looking. Can we start with
this
you?
is really something new. Yeah.
Smiling is also,
smiling is,
but you don't
okay.
have to, you shouldn't talk, because then we cannot edit you. So you can smile but not say anything. Or look, yeah, that's right. Okay. What else you want him to do, Peter?
Just go on.
Okay. Just look at me. Look at what my hands are doing, right? And they are exactly. All right.
Look at that.
Yeah, and now you can look at them.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough.
Perfect.
And then you, Dan, once more. You can smile. You have teeth. I've seen that before.
I do have teeth.
Right. Okay. All right. All right. Can you look at him? That's right. In a glorious way. Okay, that's enough.